Christ has died. Christ has risen. Christ will come again, but Christ is not here right now. So the disciples are gathered together in one place, and while the story doesn't say it, they have to be trying to figure out what's next. They spent years following this guy. They spent years learning this person's gospel. They spent years discovering the good news, seeing signs and wonders, and now that's done. That has ended. Their friend and teacher has ascended to heaven, and they have to figure out how to go on. No one would blame them if they didn't. No one would blame them if they said to themselves, we can just take his teachings back to our everyday lives. We can go back to being fishermen and laborers and tax collectors and whatever, but do it better, do it more faithfully. And if somebody asks, we can tell them what we have seen. And maybe we will be brave enough every now and again that someone won't need to ask for us to tell them what we have seen. But the disciples have already decided not to take that route. Judas is gone, so they have elected someone to replace him among the 12. They're getting things ready. They are prepared. But they can't know what's next. So they are gathered in one place, talking about all of these things, all of these wonders, all of these miracles, all of this good news, all of this gospel. And all of a sudden, there are tongues of fire around them. And a tongue of fire settles on each one, and they find their voice changing. They're suddenly speaking languages that they don't know. The same words. They have to know what they're saying. It's just coming out differently. And people are starting to gather. People are starting to listen because it's weird. It's surprising. It's unusual. The crowds now aren't sure what's going on because they are hearing what these Galileans are saying. But each in their own language, and they're from all over the place. And there's something deeply strange happening here, deeply holy happening here, but still deeply strange happening here. Because I'm not confident that the number of onlookers, each with their own language, or at least a few with each group their own language, and the number of disciples is the same. It's not like there are 12 disciples speaking 12 languages, and 12 languages in the crowd. So people are speaking and people are hearing, and it's not matching up. Everyone is speaking something and hearing something, and everyone understands. And the crowd goes, well, obviously they're drunk. I mean, because you know how it is, right? Some of you have probably experienced this yourself. When you have had enough to drink, you become fluent in other languages. I have enough wine. My French is excellent. And of course, the other side of that is true. When somebody else has had enough to drink, you understand them better. It's a strange accusation. They're filled with new wine, so somehow all of this is working out. And Peter stands up and says no. I don't know which language he says no in, but he says no. We're not drunk. It's 9 a.m. Instead, something different is happening. Something miraculous is happening. Something wondrous is happening. Something holy is happening. Something deeply strange is happening. This right here is the moment when God is pouring out their Spirit on creation. When sons and daughters are going to prophesy. When some will dream dreams and others will see visions. Where God's word will pour forth. What we are seeing is not new wine. It is a new spirit. But it is, in that most holy of senses, new wine being poured into old wineskins. The disciples can't hold it. It is bursting out of them. Something new is coming into being, and it is surprising. One of the things that I am struck by when I read accounts of early Christians is how surprising it was. The theologian Tertullian has a bit in one of his books where he talks about how other folks, how pagans were responding to these Christians, these followers of Jesus, these weirdos who were wandering around doing stuff. He tells us that people would exclaim, "See how these Christians love one another." Because that wasn't how people lived. That wasn't how people did stuff. See how these Christians are willing to lay down their lives for each other. That's not how stuff worked. People were shocked by what these Christians were doing. A Roman emperor, Julian the Apostate, tried to import some Christian stuff into Roman paganism. He tried to set up the equivalent of food banks in the Roman Empire. And he couldn't get it to work. Because this thing that Christians were doing just didn't make sense in this Roman context. They didn't do that sort of thing. And so that fell apart. But of course, Christians kept doing it. This is the thing about this early Christianity. It is surprising. It is shocking. It goes against what people are used to. It causes them to exclaim, "What is this? Are those people drunk? With all of this hospitality? With all of this generosity? With all of this love? At least they're friendly drunks. What is this thing? And how can I get some of it?" I worry sometimes that Christianity, that the church, that this religion, that this idea has been tamed. I mean, some of that is because in some ways, we've kind of, sort of, tipped the scales. We're used to the idea of food banks and soup kitchens and homeless shelters. We're used to the idea that we should care for each other. We're used to empathy being a good thing. We're used to service being an important thing. We will require students to do service to graduate. Workplaces have outings to serve others. We send kids and adults on mission trips. Loving each other is a thing that is normal up to a point. But I've told you before, and I'm sure I will tell you again, people don't really always expect it from churches. I mean, people know that we don't do it enough in the world. And people don't necessarily expect a church, a congregation, to do it in the way that we should do it, in the way that this book tells us to do it. People will expect a church to evangelize, a church to invite others to come to worship, a church to tell others about the dangers to their souls and what they must do. But people don't always expect a church to love. We've gotten into a weird place with this whole thing, where in the world there is just enough loving to feel like loving, but not so much that it disrupts anything. And there are so few places, so few communities that are urging some sort of revolution of love. We even expect the places and communities that should do that not to. Because, after all, we can go there on Sundays and then return to our lives and try to do it a little better. Try to be a little more caring. And if somebody asks us, tell them the story, and maybe sometimes be brave enough that they don't need to ask. I worry sometimes that this following of Christ has become tame, has become a dog who lies on the couch all day, has become a cat that you never see, has become something that is just around and fine and safe in its own little box where it won't bother anyone too much. But this story tells us that that cannot be true. That in this moment, in every moment, God is pouring out a Spirit on all of the world, on everyone. And that it is enough to make people see visions and dream dreams. It is enough to make people prophesy. It is enough to make people speak the good news to everyone. It is enough to shock the crowds. It is enough to surprise the onlookers. It is enough to surprise us ourselves. To put us in situations where suddenly we have to look around and go, am I drunk? How am I loving this much? How am I being loved this much? How am I ending up wrapped in love like a burrito? How am I abiding in love? Maybe just for a moment, maybe for longer. This is the moment when we are filled with a new spirit. New wine poured into old wineskins, when we should be bursting open with love. No matter where we are. No matter when we are. And it should be surprising. It should be shocking. It should be astonishing. Enough so that people say, see how these Christians love each other. Or better yet, surprising enough that people say, see how they love each other. See how Ralph loves other people. See how Denise loves other people. See how Sheila or Mary or Mariah or Jack love other people. And then have to ask that amazing question, that powerful question, that question that can change everything. What are you doing and why are you doing it? And give us the chance to say, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story about a God who is love, who came into the world as one of us among a dispossessed people in an occupied land, to parents who could not find a place to stay for the night, who lived a life we struggle to live, who loves a love we struggle to love. And we who lived under the powers of sin and death and everything that makes life less, responded in the worst possible way. But the God who is love, every time we do that, every time we do that, every time we do that, gets up again and looks us in our eyes, looks us in our hearts, looks us in our souls and says, I am not done with you yet. There is still further to go. Come with me into love. And if we do that, if we can see that vision, if we can dream that dream, if we can tell that story, if we can share that love, if we can live as though all of this were true, maybe, just maybe, just a chance, and if there's a chance, we should take it. We could fill the world with love, bit by bit and piece by piece, until God's reign of love blooms all around us, everywhere, and everyone is swept up in the Spirit. Everyone feels full of new wine. Everyone feels full of new hope. Everyone feels full of new love and new grace, and it is a new world. So I'm asking you on this Pentecost Sunday, on this birthday of the church, on this day when we remember the Spirit is in the world, I am asking you when you leave this place to go out and be surprising. Surprise yourselves. Surprise other people. So that maybe, just maybe, all of the folks in the world who have not heard this, who have not experienced this, who do not know this, might exclaim, do you see how those people in that church across the street from the school love each other? And love their friends and their neighbors, and love strangers, and love enemies, and love everyone. They must be drinking. But I want to get a piece of that.